The Metro Vancouver Regional District includes 23 local authorities, including one electoral area. Not sure what an electoral area is? Let's find out. Jen McCutcheon is the chair of the Electoral Area Committee for Metro Vancouver. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Jenny. It's nice to be here.
You probably get this question a lot. What is an electoral area?
I do, yes, and Electoral Area A in particular, it's a bit of a mouthful. But so within British Columbia, we are divided up at a regional level into regional districts. So here it's Metro Vancouver, there's a number of other regional districts. In most of the province, it's not as urban as Vancouver. So you'd have a city such as Kelowna or Kamloops, maybe a few municipalities, and then the rest of the area in the regional district would be Electoral Area A, Electoral Area B, C, D. In Metro Vancouver, there are so many municipal areas, there's 21 of them, and one First Nation, and every other pocket of land that is not part of another municipality forms one electoral area, so Electoral Area A.
So when you look at our region, what areas are you talking about?
So most of the population, there's about 15,000 people in Electoral Area A. Most of them live on the peninsula where UBC is, so UBC lands and University Endowment Lands. But there's also a number of very diverse other populations. Barnston Island is an agricultural island off of Surrey. There's two water access areas, Pitt Lake, the west side of Pitt Lake, and up Indian Arm. There's homes between, communities actually, between West Vancouver and Lions Bay on Sea to Sky, and two islands off of West Vancouver as well. So very diverse in many ways.
So what are some current priorities that you have?
Right. So again, they're different in those different areas. So with climate change, things like forest fires are becoming more of a concern. So looking at fire protection in a number of those areas. There are a number of issues that include different levels of government, including the province. Part of my role is working with residents and advocating for them at different levels of government. And then all of the issues that our whole region is facing. So COVID-19 and how do we use this as an opportunity moving forward, climate change, of course, and all of how do we mitigate that and adapt. And then in the UBC UEL area, which is more like your traditional municipalities, any of the sort of affordability issues and density and things like that.
Because the area you represent is so sort of spread out, how do you ensure that the citizens and the residents there are engaged?
Well, that's actually, the engagement piece is one of my favorite parts actually of the role. So in the UBC UEL area, where again most of the population live, a lot of it is through personal communication. I put out a newsletter every month to let residents know about what's happening in Metro Vancouver, and we put out every 6 months a bulletin out for the more rural communities because the issues are very different in those, even just dividing it that way. And then I've been running some town halls every few months, bringing in other levels of government, as well as some engagement sessions to get residents more aware and understanding of key issues such as climate action, and I have one coming up on affordable housing and complete and healthy communities.
Are you able to go out and visit these small pockets?
So I'm fairly new to this, and last year I had just been elected in the summer, so in the fall I was able to visit most of the areas, and then this summer I've been able to get up Pitt Lake, which is a water access area, and then we'll be heading up Indian Arm fairly soon. And we've been having sort of meetings within the more rural communities.
What was that experience like for you?
It was great. I really like meeting people, and I didn't know many of those other communities before I came into this role, so it was invaluable in just learning about what their lifestyle is like there and what sort of issues are important to them, and some of the challenges that they're facing that I could help advocate for.
Can you share with me something new that you learned?
We think of Metro Vancouver as a pretty urban area where you call 911 and a fire truck pulls up, but in some of the more remote, the rural areas, it's similar to being, somewhere in northern BC and there being a fire. The province will bring in forest fire services, but you don't have the same services that you would have in a municipality. Metro Vancouver helps to provide training on fire safety so that residents, as they would in a more remote area, take it upon themselves to deal with these issues. Metro Vancouver gives out grants to buy fire equipment and things like that.
Oh, so that the local residents would actually be able to handle
That's right.
a fire incident?
Yeah. So Passage Island is a great example. That's off of West Vancouver, and they've come together, the community, and being trained on how to manage a fire on the island, and they've bought the equipment and practice using the equipment so they can deal with that.
True self-efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah, another great example I think is we've been doing barge cleanups for the water access only areas. So as you can imagine, if you've had a cabin up there in your family and the only way you get there is in a small boat, but over the years you've got a generator, maybe you've got a washer or a dryer up there and those things stop working, and then you can't really get rid of it. And so staff from Metro Vancouver have been, over the last few years, taking a barge with trained staff up and a crane to get all of the waste from those homes, which has been, I think, a great service for the residents there, and it also keeps those items out of our water and environment.
What are some of the other things that you would say is unique about the area you represent?
The diversity. So it's really diverse ecosystems. There's a number of parks and different ecosystems that fall within that. It's over 800, it's about 818 square kilometers that makes up Electoral Area A. So it's a lot there that's diverse. And then, of course, the UBC area is one of the more dense areas of the whole of Metro Vancouver, but the affordability problem is alive and well in that area. So dealing with some of those more urban challenges of a rapidly growing area compared with Barnston Island that is in the Agricultural Land Reserve and a great farming community, but is water access from Surrey. So, trying to make sure that the ferries are running at a frequency that works for the residents and things. So, very, very diverse.
That sounds challenging because you've got so many different areas spread out, and they all have their unique needs.
I find it interesting. When someone brings up an issue, you don't know what it's going to be about. It could be kind of anything, and I find that part of it interesting. And I'm relatively new, so it's always a way to learn more about what's important to our community.
This is your first foray into politics. How's it been for you?
It's been excellent. It feels like a really nice way to be able to contribute in a small way, but to how our region grows and develops. Well, I love our whole planet, but certainly this area, and I think that it's a critical time, even before COVID, and now certainly in the midst of COVID, where we have a chance to continue to be, and even more so be a leader in areas like climate change. It's an opportunity, but it's also a necessity. And so it's a small voice that I have, but I feel empowered that I have a voice at the table to see how we deliberately plan out our region and the steps that we take to address problems like homelessness and affordability and, of course, climate change.
So when you look ahead to the future, what are you excited about in terms of the contribution that you can make?
Yeah, it's still continuing to get to understand more and be able to articulate and advocate for the needs of such a diverse population. Climate change again, but if we're not more seriously, even in our area, addressing climate change, we need to be. So speaking up even more on that and helping the region to really make decisions that will impact our kids and our kids' kids to keep it such a wonderful, livable region.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Jen McCutcheon is the Director of Electoral Area A and the Chair of the Electoral Area Committee for Metro Vancouver.